Okay, so we're doing works from Korea here. It's going to be numbers 196, 205, and 237. If you weren't in class on Thursday, you did not get the note sheet for 237, but I've uploaded it to the Google Classroom. Okay, so a little bit of background for the first piece. When we're talking about Korea, we're talking for the first piece. So number 196, I would write it down there. We're talking about the Three Kingdoms period. It goes from 57 BCE to 668 CE. So there was obviously a very, very long period of time in which Korea, even though they were the same peoples, did not consider themselves in the same kingdom. They were all the same ethnic people, but they were divided amongst three kingdoms. A little bit about that. They finally were able to, so the three kingdoms were the Silla, the Baekje, and the Goguryeo, sorry about that, which is to the north map here. The Silla was most powerful, and they were the ones who were able to, in the 7th century, under the with the help of the Tang dynasty. And we remember the Tang dynasty from the Longmen Caves, but they were the ones who really filled out the Longmen Caves. Remember, the Northern Wei dynasty had started the Longmen Caves, but the Tang dynasty really filled them out. With the help of the Tang dynasty, the Silla were able to unite Korea into one unified country. The Koreans practiced, prior to Buddhism becoming the major religion, the Koreans practiced shamanism, which requires a special shamanistic priest. It's a nature-focused religion. The person in charge, the priest, is advised about, or people go to him for advice about problems, and so performs rituals to hopefully fix the problems, etc., etc. Even after Buddhism came into Korea, the upper classes remained more interested in shamanism. That might make some sense, right? Because if you want to think about, we talked about Buddhism being not a centrally focused religion necessarily, right? There are lots of different forms of Buddhism, but not necessarily a centrally focused religion. And so the upper classes who had power might have wanted to retain shamanism because it more clearly reflected their power system, right? One person in charge kind of thing. So we're going to talk about a crown, as you can see on 196. These are actually burial crowns. This is not the only one. There were many of them, but they were burial crowns. Obviously, again, people got buried with stuff that they would hopefully use in the afterlife, stuff that would also emphasize their power and their wealth. There's gold obviously features highly in this piece, as it does in all of these burial headpieces from the Silla royalty. They were all in gold with various other pieces to them. And so here's our piece, the gold and jade crown from the Three Kingdoms period, from the Silla kingdom. So this is right before the Silla took over entirely and united Korea. So we don't know exactly when, but 5th to 6th century, right? So somewhere close to that time. Metalwork. Obviously there's jade in there as well. I don't know why they don't also say precious jewelry or precious jewels, but anyway. So it's a burial crown. It's made of very thin pieces of gold sheet that are cut into shape. Obviously a band that goes around the forehead, and then these other projections, which I'll talk about in just a second. It's held together with gold wire. The tall branching forms are suggestive of trees. There is a tree in particular that is in a ritual precinct. I'm not going to try and butcher the name, which is understood to be an axis mundi, right? The center of the world tree. And so these trees on the crown are likely suggestive of that world tree, that axis mundi tree. As well, there are these jade pieces, right, in little comma shapes. which are suggestive of ripe fruits. We always want to think, ripe fruit, you want to think fertility. And there's gold, there are little gold discs as well, so of course there's more shine. Of course, you're not wearing this till you're dead, so you would have to imagine that the burial ritual, the funeral rituals, were probably pretty elaborate. Again, we think back to the Egyptians, we can think to our terracotta warriors. China and Korea were obviously very close, although Korea did have its own distinct culture. Korea is right in between Japan and China, in case you didn't know it, but that's where it is. All right, and then finally, there are antler shapes on here as well, which may refer to a particular kind of elk that's Eurasian. There's a Eurasian connection in there as well. It's not just purely Asian, it's also can be Eurasian. All right, so that was that piece, very simple. All right, number 205, Portrait of Sin Sukju, 1417 to 1475. Okay, Imperial Bureau of Painting, circa 15th century CE. It is a hanging scroll, ink and color on silk. Now, I've already talked about ink a little bit. I mentioned the literatus the other day with the Chinese history in terms of art and letters and how important that was. And so we see silk. Travelers Among Mountains and Streams was also ink, right? I believe on silk. I could be wrong about that. All right, so we have a Neo-Confucian royal court and elite literati. That's him. And he was these people were the primary patron of the arts. And as I mentioned before, with the Longman, or the information about the Chinese background, which again was very influential in Korea. They were very influential in terms of how the culture worked. This guy, okay, so paintings were made of important people, duh, right? But only if you were a meritorious subject could you get this particular kind of painting that was done by the Imperial Bureau of Painting. So we can see that it's like a royal academy. So you have to know there have to be a lot of conventions about how the person is portrayed, right? So this guy was a really important key political figure of his time. Eventually he became prime minister. He was not prime minister when this painting was made. Okay, so conventions. The sitting, feet on stool, we've seen that before so many times, right? We have the rich robe with the badge. This is a badge that indicates his rank, or not his rank, but his position. It has peacocks on it. It's got, I think it's embossed with gold thread in the painting. And the face is done in 3/4 profile, so it's not straight on, nor is it a pure profile. But all of that is convention, right? This is how you are to paint this kind of portrait. It's very important that you follow those rules. However,